Back by no demand at all. It's a more extended peel writing, and this time we're going to touch on Ned Kelly himself. Now, we've been reading through this book in class, Black Snake. This is a mix of fiction and non-fiction, which helps students not only understand all the facts, but also put themselves in the shoes of people who were there at the time. Now, it's very important that students finish reading this book. They can come and see me before the end of the week if they want to take their copy home on the weekend, if it's still here in the classroom. Now, as you can see, there are many different kinds of sections. There's pictures involved. There's also non-fictional sections, sort of what if you were there? And the writer of the book puts themselves in the shoes of one of the people affected by Ned Kelly's crimes. I'm going to demonstrate now how we would put together an extended peel paragraph using evidence from the book while also using some of our persuasive techniques. I'm going to go with the easy option, which is to say that Ned Kelly is a villain. Some are more than welcome to say that he was a hero. That's been a commonly accepted aspect of Australian mythology. Some are also more than welcome to say that he was a victim. That means somebody who was a victim of circumstance or things outside of their control that pushed him to do what he did. So I'm going to go with the easy one, that he was a villain. Ned Kelly struck fear into the hearts of innocent civilians. Only a villain would do that. So a fairly simple point, that people were afraid of him, and you wouldn't be afraid, generally, of a hero. So he was a villain. His actions made people afraid. And so now I have to go and get my evidence for this from the book. So they do need to have actual quotes from the book together with the page numbers. And there is a resource that we have prepared that provides a whole wealth of information and sample quotes and summaries from the novel. So they're not on their own there. So I'm going to find something quickly where somebody was afraid of Ned Kelly. I believe it was around page 'Reign of Terror'. So the police seemed powerless to capture them. The gang had killed 3 men. Here are some examples of Ned Kelly's villainous act. But here's my evidence. It says here, for people at the time living in small remote towns with only 1 or 2 policemen to protect them, it wasn't so amusing. They were afraid of the Kellys. So the evidence I need in this exam is evidence from the book. Now, I need to quote this. Before Kelly's arrest, then I'm putting quotation marks, very important punctuation mark for the children to remember. Before Kelly's arrest, people, I'm putting an ellipsis there, dot, 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 which means I'm cutting out some information. People in small remote towns, dot, dot, dot again, were afraid of the Kellys. And now I have to use brackets to put in the page number 85. P.85, close bracket, full stop. Very simple, but students will often forget this. So this is something to reinforce at home. Now, I need to explain this evidence. I cannot simply drop it in there and hope that it does the talking for me. Students need to show that they understand what the evidence means. I will say the violence of the gang was well known and people in small towns were defenseless. So in this E, I have explained the evidence that I've used. Very important. Can't just use evidence, cannot just give your own opinion, you need to use both. So we're doing extended peel today, and this is what I'll be looking for in the exam. But my main point is that people were afraid of Ned Kelly. I've got one piece of evidence, I need another one as well. So earlier in the book, there is a non-fiction excerpt where a young girl says, "Is it the Kelly gang?" I asked, my voice shaking as much as my knees. Now, this soon changed because the Kellys, cunningly or in a very savvy way, if you like, looked after the ordinary civilians in some of their robberies to try to engender support from common people. However, I'm going to use this piece of evidence to show that ordinary people were afraid, and her name was Fanny Shaw. So I start off with Fanny Shaw, a simple maid, reported her knees shook, knees and voice shook, when she learned the Kellys had arrived. Now I have summarized what she said. I've paraphrased it. I've put it in my own words. But I will still need to use the page number to point to where I found it. And this is building a skill which children will use throughout high school, using evidence, clearly citing and referencing it, so that we know it's that their own work is theirs and others' work belongs to them. Now I'm going to explain this piece of evidence that I've used as well. Her knees and voice shook when she learned the Kellys had arrived. Now I can say simply, this shows the outlaws. Notice I've used different words to talk about them so it's not boring and repetitive. Outlaws, gang, the Kellys. This shows the outlaws inspired physical responses of fear in the public. So I've got two pieces of evidence which I have explained. I'm ready to wrap it up now with my link. Common folk, once again using a different word so it's not boring. Common folk were terrified of Ned and his gang as villains they truly were. I'm using high modality there. I'm not saying they might have been villains. They were a little bit villainous. I've said villains they truly were. High modality, another very important persuasive technique. So just to wrap it up again, my main point is that he's a villain, and we know this because he made people afraid. He struck fear into the hearts of innocent civilians. That's also using pathos, building in an emotional response. Only a villain would do that. Before Kelly's arrest, my first piece of evidence, people in small remote towns were afraid of the Kellys with the page number. The violence of the gang was well known, and people in small towns were defenseless. Another piece of evidence, Fanny Shaw, a simple maid, reported her knees and voice shook when she learned the Kellys had arrived. I put it in my own words, but I still need the page number. Explanation, this shows the outlaws inspired physical responses of fear in the public. And my linking statement to wrap it all up, common folk, as demonstrated here and here, were terrified of Ned and his gang as villains they truly were, linking back to my main point.